Eno, yes, Salam TV.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our dear viewers of Salam TV, we first want to say sorry to you for the delay in the beginning, but Alhamdulillah we are here. This is the Alhidaayah show every Monday 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. but now we shall be starting at 3:30 up to 4 p.m. We thank Allah for the gift of life. We thank Allah for those who have got good things through the previous week. We thank Allah for that, and those who have got some challenges, khayrihi wa sharri min Allahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. The good and the bad, they are all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we thank Allah for the gift of life, for that we are still here. This is the Alhidaayah show where we appreciate Islam and science. And more specifically today, we are going to look at the muscular-skeletal system. That system that enables you to move your body organs, your body parts to different, or for you to move from one place to the other. I'm Alkam Mayanja, your host. Today in the studio, I have Mr. Hamza Sekalema. Could you please say salam to our dear viewers of Salam TV?
Now, dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift of life and the chance to be here to participate in an exercise that involves building our knowledge, appreciating the signs of Allah in this world, and that is the core essence of our program. Now,
today is 15th September 2025, which is corresponding to 23rd Rabi al-Awwal, that is 1447, that is on the Hijriya calendar. In the next 7 days, this month will be done and will be entering to Rabi al-Thani. So please and please evaluate yourself what you've done. Those who didn't manage to fast today, Thursday is nearby, and that is when our good deeds are given to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So please and please, you may make intention and fast Thursday bidini tabaraka ta'ala. Mr. Hamza Sekalema, as we start, what is this musculoskeletal system, or what is this system that enables us to move from one place to the other, or to move our body parts?
Naam, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. So the musculoskeletal system is a system of, first of all, bones. Because remember, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating us, He starts with the bones, then He says, وَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا. So He puts the flesh onto the bones after the bones have been created. So that is a system that Allah has designed that allows us to stand upright and to make these movements that we are making is composed of the bones, which act more like the way you find pillars within a building. Then you have the muscles. The muscles are more of the cement and the walls that you put into a building, meaning you have the core structure. Yes, it is good and it's very important, but you can't live in a building just because it has the pillars. Put the pillars, which are the bones, that form the skeleton. Then on top of that, he has put the flesh, and within the flesh, he has put a very important set of what we call muscles that allow us to move the bones, because the bones are just pieces of what material forms bones. So that material that forms bones is not intelligent, it can't move on its own. So for Allah to enable us to move and to make all these very smooth actions, He has attached muscles. That flesh that covers our bones and is able to make us move around is also part of the miracle. So the two things have to work together. The muscles are useless without the bones, and the bones are also useless without the muscles. So they have to work together in order for us to do all this.
I think our dear viewer has to appreciate that all these systems that we've covered earlier, they work hand in hand to produce for us something unique. Previously, we looked at the nervous system. It is this now which communicates to this musculoskeletal system that please, you have to walk. Please, you have to jerk. So you understand that all this acts as a miracle of the human body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. Mr. Hamza Sekalema, what are some of the key interesting facts about this musculoskeletal system or the locomotion system?
So some of the things that we need to note, which bring out the miracle effects that we tend to talk about, is one, the number of components. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put up 206 bones within your body and up to 600 muscles. So the combination of 200 bones and 600 muscles is what comes together for you to be able to stand upright, to sit, to do all these gestures that we are doing. And we should also realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given each animal a different form of ability to move. For example, the cats, they have a very advanced awareness that allows them.
The one with 4 legs.
So a cat can, for example, restore its position even if you throw it into an upside down position. So those are things that the human body may not be able to do because they are not needed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give a feature to an organism because it needs. So for us, He has given us that very unique capacity to stand upright and to stay upright for the majority of our lives. Other animals do it, like for example, if you compare with the chimpanzees, they could try, but they don't make it a permanent position. Usually they go on to the force in order to reduce the amount of energy they use. So we are saying miracle 1 is the number of components. You have up to 206 bones and you have up to 600 muscles. Those are the things that have to come together just to allow you to perform all these locomotions that you are doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not put all that into you just for a joke. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah to Al Imran, ayat 191, He says, Rabbana ma khalaqta hadha batilan, meaning all these things that we see within our bodies and the complex structures, Allah did not just play around and put them in place. They are a miracle that is meant to remind you that you are indeed a creation that needs to be responsive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other interesting thing about our muscular stroke skeletal system is balance. Now you realize that when you stand upright, you are not really standing in a position of stress where you're feeling that your body is under some kind of tension, you need to possibly lie down. No, you feel comfortable while standing upright. But remember that you are standing upright against a weight, and that weight is sitting on that skeleton of yours that you have. But you don't really feel a lot of that pressure because of the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed the body. One, He has made the spinal cord, which is the main thing that allows us to stand, He has designed it in an S form. So it is not some 100% upright looking structure.
Yeah, at 90 degrees.
So that S there is important in absorbing the weight in a way that reduces how much pressure it puts onto the spinal cord. You will see even other structures, for example, bridges and etc., when they are trying to make it stable but not to crack very easily, they tend to put in some kind of circular shapes that allow the pressure to be more evenly distributed. So Allah has also given us the spinal cord, and it is in an S form in case you are standing upright. So that is a very important aspect, because if He had not done that, we would be feeling a lot of pressure while standing and even walking around. But you can see that you walk around the whole day and you don't really feel that your body is under any kind of influence of the weight. So a very important thing there. Then the other interesting thing about the way Allah has designed our muscular system is the way He has put the foot. You see, we human beings walk on our feet. So those feet, those pads that we see down there, they also have a special design. You will see that they are not flat.
Yes.
So the foot is not...
It's an arc.
So there is some kind of arc down there that also has a purpose. One, as we walk around, you tend to have some kind of shocks, because the ground where you are moving is not some very easy surface. So when you walk, you tend to shock your body, but that shock is not transferred to the rest of the body. So the design of the foot partially absorbs some of the shocks that would have come directly into our body. Indeed, it would be very difficult to move if the feet were not doing that shock absorber effect. Just imagine for cars, in order for a car to move around without necessarily shaking too much, they have that suspension, which is a
shock absorbers.
Those shock absorbers are what allow that car to go through the road without necessarily shaking you too much. Otherwise, if they were to put the tires directly onto the body of the car, it would be very hard for you
Even
to
a
use that.
small inclination in the ground.
But you realize that because the car is suspended, essentially they use some kind of spring mechanism to allow it to move. Yes, it will shake in case the impact is much, but largely
It absorbs.
So similarly, Allah has made your feet in such a way. He has put a small curve there so that it absorbs the shock. You don't feel a lot of that shock as you hit your feet on the ground. And that is another very important thing that we need to note within the design of the muscular system
Mr.
that
what
Allah
can
has
you
put.
tell our dear viewers about the self-locking knee, like this knee of ours?
So you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a joint within our knee that allows us to bend. Imagine if your leg was just
very straight.
it would be very difficult. Meaning if your leg was to be just straight like this with no capacity to bend, it would be an impossibility to use. But Allah has made it in such a way that you can bend the leg at the knee. But on top of that, He has made it in such a way that once you stretch out your leg like this, the knee locks into place, in that all the muscles are now at rest. If that knee was not locking in place, it means the muscles would have to maintain you in that upright position, and there would be a lot of effort needed. Because remember, a human being is a very heavy creature. You realize that you are 70 kgs. Imagine 70 kgs in an unstable position. It means your muscles would have to keep moving all the time to make sure that you don't fall over. But the knee locks in such a way that once it has locked, the rest of the muscles are left to be simply at relaxed form, in that you can stand for a long time without necessarily stressing your muscles. So it is a very important thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put there. Then the other issue that we can see is the ball and socket joint system. Now you realize that if you can move your hand, meaning around here, the shoulder, you remove your hand in all directions, nearly 360 degrees. Just imagine if we could only move in one direction like this, meaning you can't move like this. Life would be very difficult.
During bathing, you can't wash some parts.
Life would be very hard.
No.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us that miracle of the ball and socket. It is a joint, but it moves nearly 360 degrees. You can keep moving around. So all the flexibility that you need to live your life is all guaranteed by the fact that we do have those kinds of joints that allow us to move in very many directions.
Yes, Mr. Mzase Kalema, we understand that at a certain moment, I get an accident and my hand, the bone gets a crack. But it so happens that they normally say, if you are young, at least you have a chance of your bones to recover. What is that exactly do they mean? Because we are looking at these bones as something rigged. But then someone is telling me, for you, if you're a bit younger, you will have a chance of regenerating your bones.
Now you realize that these bones, although we see them resembling maybe wood or some other inanimate structures, these bones are actually living things within our bodies. They grow. Because if you look at the bones of a young child, they're not the same as one that has grown up. So meaning as we grow, the bone is also growing. So it's a living thing. So in case the bone breaks, the body has a mechanism of restoring that part that has broken. And interestingly, the scientists tell us that the replacement is usually stronger than the original structure that is there. So because it is a living thing, all that is needed is to simply put it back so that it rejoins. So the rest of repair and etc. is done automatically by the body. So the people that work on the bones, their task is make sure that the broken bone is restored back to the way it was, and you simply touch the two broken surfaces, and that is all. And that's why they need sometimes to wrap that, is it called plastic of Paris, so that the bone does not move away, because every time the bones move against one another, they disrupt what would be the natural repair process. So for as long as we've made a guarantee that these two bones are together for an extended period of time, slowly by slowly, Allah will build that bridge back and you find the bone has actually repaired and you can't even realize that it has broken. Otherwise, you would be having a very big problem, just like some of the other organs that require transplant. It means in case you have a broken arm, you would again need a transplant, and it would be very difficult. And interestingly, the bones are sometimes replaced by metal. They put some not very active metals like titanium or some of the others, and they put, because the bone itself as an entity is essentially just like a piece of wood or a piece of metal. For it, it has the fact that it grows, and interestingly, it does not grow infinitely. Because if it was growing infinitely, it means 100-year-old people would be like 10 meters tall, or it is. But you can see that Allah grows this bone in a structured way, in that a time comes when the bone is no longer growing, but you are the same person, you are still eating, you still have all the calcium, the bone structure is still the same, but Allah has prevented it from growing any further. And that is something that we need to note about these bones. They can even self-repair, and it is one of the other miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us.
For our dear viewer who is watching us on Salam TV, we would like to appreciate that name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ar-Razzaq. Allah Ar-Razzaq, the all provider. We refer to Allah as the all provider. Now we're looking at this bone with the minerals, the calcium. What can you say about this calcium and phosphorus, which are always made from, again, the bones and again stored in the bones themselves?
Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made our body in such a way that it stores some materials as some kind of backup. If Allah had not given us that backup mechanism, we would be living a very difficult life. Imagine if you didn't have any fat on your body, meaning the moment you feel hungry, you have to eat at that time, otherwise you die. Life would be extremely difficult.
And expensive.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it in such a way that He puts a backup mechanism in that whenever you need a resource, the resource is available internally within your body. So even the bones store critical minerals like calcium. There is also phosphorus and some others that are needed by other parts of the body. But the other parts are simply users. They don't store. But Allah has put the bones as the stores. So whenever there is a need somewhere, there is coordination. There is detection that there is a need here, there is coordination, and in the end, the bones will provide all these minerals that are needed in other places, and it is all just by a miracle. And remember, our dear listeners, that all these things we don't have much of participation in. It's not like the human being feels that this part here, I think it needs some calcium, then he presses somewhere. No, you simply live your life, and in there, your body is busy detecting deficiencies and covering them up, and the skeletal system is doing its role as it may, as it was designed. So a very important thing there. Within your system that allows the bones and muscles to work together, they are what we call tendons. Now those tendons are what allow these muscles to connect to the bones, because you see, the muscle itself is one thing and the bone is another. But how do they finally connect in such a way that they work together seamlessly?
To give us movement.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a very special material that's called a tendon. Now those tendons are very tough, and they allow our body to work very efficiently. And the other interesting thing about these tendons is that they also help to protect the muscles. You see, for us, when we are doing our movements, you don't really measure how much pressure you put on your muscles. Because these muscles, they are available, you simply stretch them, and human beings are known for overstretching. If you see the way we load our vehicles or the way we load our animals, you can see that we are people that can go into excess.
Yeah, you see someone is 70 kgs but is carrying 4 bags of 25, that is 100.
So meaning that body of yours, if it didn't have some protective mechanism within the tendons that prevent the muscles from getting torn, and it would be getting torn nearly every minute. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a mechanism that allows a detection of too much pressure, and the body puts up a mechanism that makes the muscle to relax a bit. Otherwise, if there was no automatic control mechanism, we would be injuring ourselves just by moving or sitting or doing some of this work that requires a bit of effort. So all those are things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in your body, and they are there as a miracle for you to reflect. And if you've never seen a person that has suffered a stroke, it's when you can really look at your muscles and think they are just an automatic thing. A person can suffer a stroke, which is some damage that occurs to the brain, and an entire section of the body is rendered totally unable to move. When you see those kinds of people, it's when you can realize that, subhanallah, it means movement is not something that is just a joke. Because when a person sees these muscles and bones, they may think that to move a hand, it is just a straightforward thing, but it requires a lot of coordination. And remember that the body is one large structure. At a given moment, your body must be aware of where you are. Your body must be aware of exactly where you are so that it can adjust and prevent you from falling over. Otherwise, if the moment your body loses information about where you are, you immediately begin to stagger. And I think that's why the drunkards end up staggering. Because what happens is that when a person takes alcohol, the ethanol they have taken goes into the brain. Then it loosens the neural connections within the brain. So the brain is supposed to communicate very accurately about your location without any delays. But once you take alcohol, there are delays in the communication. Yes, the communications do occur because the drunk person does not simply fall and is unable.
The coordination is disturbed.
So the coordination is disturbed. This person now begins to make late movements, and in the end they end up falling down. So meaning that body of yours has to be coordinated as an entire piece for it to move together. You know that the hand is here. Just moving my hand like this requires some adjustments so that I don't again follow the hand and fall over. So all of that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put within your body.
To enable you our dear viewer would like to appreciate and inquire, what is this that when someone is not cautious, is not about that, but you see what you call the sixth sense that normally people talk about, that you're not conscious about something, but your hand simply works or changes position.
So just imagine, in case you close your eyes and you are told to touch the ear or the nose or the mouth, you see that you touch them effortlessly.
Even if it's in the dark.
Yet in actual sense you are not seeing, meaning you don't need to see your organs in order to touch them. So the body has built a complete positioning system, just like the way you see GPS. That GPS system is a global positioning system, meaning it gives you coordinates of where you are on Earth. And that's how even a Google Maps is able to show you that you can move from here to Chivuli simply by turn left, turn right. All that is just because it is able to detect your current coordinates, compares them with the road, and tells you now you can move here and there. So what the body has is a whole structure of the positions of each part here at any given moment, meaning it's not that the body has a crammed that the nose is found here, meaning if I move a bit here and I'm told to touch the nose, I will touch somewhere else. No. As you move around, the positioning system also adjusts. And more interestingly, in our earlier period as young men, we used to use this butida. Now you realize that you simply look at the target. You don't look at this
what you're stretching,
butida that you are stretching. You focus on the target. So the hands are able to
stretch and determine that distance.
So they determine the distance, the angle, everything. You don't really put in an effort like the way the snipers would do. They have to rely on that telescope and etc. But a person can be able to shoot towards an object without necessarily having to look at this that they are using to shoot. Simply pull and focus on the target. So for as long as your eyes are there, the eyes will do enough communication in terms of range, angle, etc. in that you're able to hit that object without necessarily having to focus on this thing that you are using for hitting it. So all that, what they are calling a sixth sense, is a very advanced positioning mechanism that will allow you to sense your body parts, where they are at a given moment, and You don't need to see them. At any given moment, you are aware of where each part is, for as long as your hands can be able to reach it. Then, another very interesting part of our skeletal system is the skull. Now, remember that we are initially in the wombs of our mothers.
Yeah. Someone would wonder how a baby who with the head and all those bones works.
So initially we are in the wombs of the mothers, then we are born. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made us to have very rigid heads at the time we are born, there would be no way any woman would produce a child. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it in such a way that at the time a child is born, the bones are not yet rigid. They are flexible and they even allow for some changes in the shape. By the way, I didn't actually know of that. But when my third son, my third child, which is a son, was born, I was around. So when the child was born, they brought it out and I was able to touch it. But the head was
very soft.
was extremely soft. I even got scared. I said,
that is why in the Baganda culture they have that process of chogero. They say they are reshaping the head.
Yeah. So you realize that Allah has made it in such a way that you need this very hard thing to protect the brain, but you again need to be born. So He has made it in such a way that before you are born, the thing is not rigid, it's flexible. But once you come out, then it begins now to harden up to a point where even a mango can fall onto your head and okay, you could see stars for a few seconds, but you are back to normal. So that is how interesting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed our skeletal system. So a very important thing there. The other thing that we need to note that Allah has put within our skeletal system is the lubrication, because you realize that within a car, every part that has a joint needs oil, needs very important servicing all the time. You see that cars have to be serviced every few weeks. But for you, you move around for years and years, absolutely no service, and you don't even care. So the reason simply being that we have a very unique lubrication mechanism that exists within our joint. These joints that you are seeing moving, these are two bones that are brushing against one another. So if you didn't have a very good lubrication mechanism, we would slowly by slowly wear our joints until they would be unusable. But a very efficient mechanism of lubrication exists within our joints in that we move them around for years and years and there's still no problem. Of course, there are some abnormalities that may occur where a person loses some of that lubrication and it becomes a very big problem. Actually, if you find one that has lost what you see as obvious, there is a lot of pain when you are trying to move without that lubrication. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us that as a miracle, and
I think our last miracle,
we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us
this viewer of us would like to appreciate what happens when I bend. That extent, we understand that we have ribs in our structure, our skeletal system, but I'm able to bend it down, up, down. What is that about those last two ribs that do not fuse with the sacrum? So
the last two ribs are designed in such a way that, remember, you have some very vital organs within your body here, very, very critical ones. But at the same time, as a human being, you need to be bending. So as you bend, remember, you are squeezing against these organs. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed that rib cage in such a way that some of the ribs don't actually, are designed in such a way that they don't fuse, they cannot pierce these organs. Otherwise, these are real bones. In case the design was not very efficient, we would end up either having to stay upright, because once you bend a bit, the very bones that you have within your body would begin to pierce your organs. But all that has already been pre-designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it keeps us moving.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamza Sekalema, our dear viewer of Salam TV, the viewer of Alhidaayah show, where we appreciate Islam and science. We appreciate you every time for tuning in. Please, you can watch the preview or the reload of this show on the Salam TV YouTube channel, and please comment back your reactions, and your feedback is very paramount and important to us for the betterment of this show, for you to appreciate and thank Allah for that gift that you have. In studio, I'm Alkam Mayanja, your host. This is the Alhidaayah show every Monday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. We are not going to proceed from here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us more life, and may Allah enable us to worship Him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.